The moment I heard my granddaughter laughing while I was still on the ground, my whole life snapped in half. I knew the porch steps were slick, but I didn't expect to go down that fast. 1 second I was steady, the next I was skidding on my side like a bag of groceries. But the worst part wasn't the shock, or the pain shooting up my hip. It was hearing Avery's laugh. Sharp, bright, cruel in a way I didn't want to believe she was capable of. I stayed down for a second, trying to gather myself, the cold boards pressing against my palms. Years ago, my husband would have been there before I even realized I'd fallen. But Avery? She didn't reach for me. She reached for her phone. "Oh my God, Grandma, you totally wiped out," she giggled, bending toward me, not to help but to film. Film. "I'm fine," I muttered, pushing myself upright even as my hip screamed otherwise. "Hold still," she chirped. "I'm trying to get a good angle." A good angle. Of me suffering. I limped inside, her laughter trailing me like a cold wind. I used to think she was just distracted, just young. But that laughter wasn't distracted. It was amused. Inside, the house felt smaller than usual, like the walls had leaned in to listen. I steadied myself on the banister and closed my eyes. My breath trembled. Not from the pain, but the humiliation blooming under my skin. Avery burst through the doorway behind me, still smiling, still breathless. "Grandma, seriously, you gotta see this. You fell like a cartoon character." "I don't think that's funny," I whispered. She shrugged. "You're being dramatic." That word cut deeper than the fall. I sank into my usual chair, the one spot in this house that still felt mine. I stared at Avery's face, so familiar, so loved, and saw something I'd never let myself see before. She didn't respect me. She didn't even see me. Upstairs, I heard her laughing again, this time with friends on speaker. "Yeah, I got it on video," she said. "I'll post it tonight." My stomach twisted. She wasn't just mocking me privately. She wanted an audience. I looked at my bruising knee, at my wrinkled hands, at the quiet house that had sheltered generations. Somewhere deep inside, something old and long silent stirred awake. A truth I'd ignored for years. They didn't value me because I'd never demanded they did. But that video, posted for the world, would be the spark that changed everything. And none of them saw it coming. If betrayal has a sound, it's a phone buzzing with notifications you never asked for. I was stirring sugar into my coffee the next morning when my phone lit up like a slot machine. Message after message. People I barely knew asking if I was okay. At first, I thought they'd mistakenly texted the wrong number. Then I saw the link. There I was falling, sliding, groaning. And Avery's laughter ringing like a soundtrack. My heart dropped so hard I swore I heard it hit the floor. I tapped the video, unable to believe what I was seeing. Hundreds of comments already. LMAO, she face planted. Old people, gravity hits different skull. Tell Granny to hold the railing next time. Bro, that laugh is wild. She really said oops, not my problem. It felt like someone had stripped me bare in public. Avery bounced downstairs a moment later, hair messy, hoodie half zipped, zero shame. "Grandma." The video hit 20,000 views overnight. 20,000. "Avery," I said quietly. "Why would you post that?" She frowned like I'd just asked the stupidest question imaginable. "Because it's funny. Everyone thinks so." "Chill. Chill." My hands trembled around the mug. "Avery." I could have been seriously hurt. "But you weren't," she said. "So why are you freaking out?" Freaking out. Dramatic. Sensitive. Overreacting. Those were the words my family always used when they didn't want to confront what they'd done. I put down my mug before it shattered. "Take it down," I said. She rolled her eyes. "No way. It's already everywhere. People are begging for part 2. Part 2. Of my pain." I walked away before the ache in my chest swallowed me whole. I made it halfway down the hall before she called out casually. "Don't worry, Grandma. You'll get used to it." I stopped cold. Used to it. Used to being mocked. Used to being filmed. Used to being disposable. Maybe once, I would have swallowed this. Lowered my head. Pretended it didn't hurt. But something in me, something old and steady, finally snapped awake. I'd been used for years. For money. For favors. For convenience. But this public humiliation? This was the line. And once a line is crossed, there's no going back. Not for them and not for me. The moment I opened the old file drawer, I realized I'd been keeping receipts long before I ever meant to use them. My sewing room was the only untouched corner of the house. No laughter, no arguments, no slammed doors, just quiet, the way it had been when George was alive. I closed the door behind me and sank into the old wooden chair. I opened the bottom drawer, the one I hadn't dared open in years. Inside sat a thick file labeled in my husband's handwriting. Margaret important. My name. My history. My proof. I placed it on the table and flipped it open. Tuition payments for Avery. Car repairs for Lucas. Mortgage help for their house. Medical bills they never paid. Groceries. Credit cards. Emergencies. Non emergencies. 10 years of being their safety net. 10 years of silence whenever I needed something. I touched each document the way you touch old scars, knowing exactly where they came from, even if the hurt had faded. George used to say, paper remembers better than people do. God, he was right. They'd forgotten every check I wrote, every bill I covered, every time I saved them from consequences they'd earned. And now Avery was publicly mocking me, as if I'd done nothing for her but get in her way. My hands trembled, not in fear, but in clarity. I wasn't powerless. I wasn't small. I had proof. I gathered every document neatly, feeling something inside me lock into place. A strength I hadn't touched since the day I buried my husband. Upstairs, Avery laughed again, loud, careless, the way only someone who's never been held accountable can laugh. But soon as she would learn. Because I wasn't just collecting papers. I was preparing to finally stand up. When someone you love looks at you like you're the problem, something inside you hardens in a way that never fully softens again. Avery came downstairs later that night, still glued to her phone, still grinning like nothing mattered. Grandma, she said casually, my friends think you should do more videos. The fall one is hilarious. More videos. Like I was a show. Like my pain was content. I stared at her. The girl I raised, fed, took to school, prayed for. The girl whose diapers I changed, whose nightmares I soothed, whose future I funded. I stared, waiting for the real her to peek through. The one who used to cling to my leg and say, Grandma, don't leave. But that girl was gone. You should rest, she added, blowing a bubble with her gum. Old people bruise like peaches. That was it. The quiet click inside me. The shift. A door closing. A line forming. I need to talk to you, I said. Avery rolled her eyes. If this is about the video again. It is, I interrupted. She slumped into a chair with the dramatic flair of a teenager inconvenienced by basic human decency. Grandma, seriously, nobody cares. It's the internet. People forget stuff. Do you? I asked softly. Her smirk faltered for half a breath. I slid the folder onto the table. My proof. My decade of sacrifice. Her eyes flicked to it, but she didn't understand, not yet. You hurt me, I said. Not just by laughing, but by forgetting everything I've done for you. She shrugged, picking at her sleeve. You're acting like I committed a crime. You filmed an elderly person falling and didn't help, I said. That's not a joke. It's negligence. Avery scoffed. You're being dramatic. That word again. The family's favorite tool. My son Lucas walked in right then, as if summoned by the universe for maximum damage. Mom, he said, irritation already dripping off his tongue. What is all this? I turned the folder toward him. His face tightened. Why are you bringing this up? He snapped. Because it happened, I replied. For the first time in years, I wasn't the one shrinking in a conversation. I wasn't bending. I was holding my ground. The way George always told me I had a right to. Lucas glanced at Avery, then at the papers, then back at me. You're making a big deal out of nothing. Their favorite sentence. Their favorite lie. I'm making a big deal out of being disrespected, I said. There's a difference. A silence settled, thick, uncomfortable, necessary. And that silence would soon break in a way none of us could ever take back. The first time you call a lawyer about your own family, your hands shake. Not from fear, but from finally choosing yourself. The house was quiet after Lucas and Avery stormed upstairs, slamming doors like punctuation marks. I sat alone in the dim living room, rubbing my knee, the bruise darkening like a storm cloud under my skin. The folder lay on the couch beside me, silent, heavy, honest. My phone buzzed. Lucas again. Mom dropped this. It's stupid. Avery. Grandma, you are being weird. I stared at the messages, and for the first time I didn't feel guilt. I felt clarity. I opened my old address book. The one with worn corners and George's handwriting tucked between pages. Near the back was a name I'd avoided for years. Arthur Cole, attorney at law. I hesitated for a breath, then dialed. Helen, he answered, voice warm, familiar. It's been a long time. It has, I whispered. And I need help. I told him everything. The fall, the laugh, the video, the years of financial support, the disrespect so constant it became normal. He didn't interrupt. He didn't doubt me. He didn't call me dramatic. When I finished, he exhaled slowly. Helen, what they've done isn't just unkind. It may be considered elder neglect. And the financial part? We can pursue that too. My throat tightened. I don't want to hurt them. You're not, he said gently. You're protecting yourself. He asked me to bring all documents to his office tomorrow morning. And the video, he added. It will matter. When I hung up, I sat there for a long moment, listening to the quiet hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the old clock, the sound of my own heartbeat, steady, determined. Upstairs, Avery laughed again, but this time, it didn't cut the same way. It sounded distant, small, like a child pretending to be bigger than she was. I stood, sliding the folder under my arm. My knee ached with every step, but it was good pain. Progress pain. I paused at the bottom of the stairs, not to go up, but to whisper what I'd never said aloud. I'm done being your doormat. The words filled the house like a gust of fresh air. For the first time in a long time, it felt like my home again. Like I'd finally taken the first step back into my own life. But the real battle, the one that would shake my entire family, was waiting for me in the courthouse. You don't realize how much you've been surviving until the moment you finally decide to live. Arthur's office looked almost exactly the way I remembered it. Soft lamplight, polished oak desk, the faint scent of old leather and stronger coffee. He stood when I walked in, offering a gentle smile and a steadying hand. You came prepared, he said, eyeing the thick folder in my arm. More than I ever intended to be, I replied. We sat, and for the first time in years, I felt like I wasn't being rushed. Not dismissed. Not patronized. Just heard. He opened the folder and methodically scanned the documents. Tuition statements. Loan transfers. Car payments. Medical bills. Grocery totals. Mortgage assistance. All the pieces of myself I had quietly handed over. He looked up. Helen, this isn't just generosity. This is dependency. They leaned on you far more than they should have. I swallowed. I know. And the video, he asked. I slid my phone across the desk. He pressed play. I didn't watch. It hurt too much, but I heard everything. The scrape. My groan. Avery's laughter, harsh, unfiltered. Her commentary mocking, gleeful. Arthur paused the video midway, jaw tight. This will speak loudly in court. I felt a shiver. Not fear but validation. Someone else finally saw what I'd been enduring. He continued. We'll file 2 requests. One for financial recovery. The other for emotional harm and neglect. My pulse flickered. Will it ruin them? He shook his head. Consequences aren't ruin, Helen. They're reality. I exhaled slowly. I'd spent so long cushioning the harshness of life for Lucas and Avery. Maybe I'd protected them too well. Shielding them from accountability they desperately needed. Arthur leaned back. Before we proceed, I want to ask something important. Are you ready for the possibility that they will fight you? That they may get angry or blame you? I nodded. They already have. He smiled sadly. Then let's move forward. When I left his office, the cold air outside felt sharper but cleaner, like winter right before it snows. I pulled my coat tighter and walked toward my car, my knee protesting with every step. But each step also carried something new. Resolve. Ownership. Self-respect. I wasn't acting out of vengeance. I was acting out of survival. Little did I know. My family would show just how far they'd go to avoid facing the truth, and how far I'd come to finally speak it. The moment I stepped back into my house, I realized I wasn't returning home. I was stepping into a battlefield. The air inside felt heavier than when I'd left, like the house itself knew a storm was coming. I'd barely hung my coat before I heard feet pounding down the stairs. Avery stopped at the bottom, eyes wide, foam clutched to her chest. "Grandma, did you seriously go to a lawyer?" There it was, the fear. Not remorse. Fear. The kind that only shows up when someone realizes you're no longer predictable. "Yes," I said simply. Her mouth dropped open. "Why? Why would you do that?" I raised an eyebrow. "Why do you think?" She shifted, face crumbling with frustration. "Dad said you're blowing things out of proportion." "Your dad isn't the one who fell," I replied. "Or the one who was mocked." She swallowed hard. "But it was just a video." I shook my head. "Avery, it was humiliation. And you didn't care." Her lips trembled, but her eyes still refused responsibility. Are you suing us?" "I'm protecting myself," I corrected. Something I should have done a long time ago. Her breath hitched, and for a moment she looked like a child again. Small, overwhelmed, scared. But then her expression hardened. "Dad won't let this happen. He won't let you do this." "I'm not asking his permission," I said. As if summoned by her plea, the front door flew open. Lucas stormed inside, face flushed, voice already raised. "Mom, what the hell is going on?" I didn't flinch, didn't shrink, didn't apologize. "I met with Arthur," I said calmly. "We're filing." Lucas ran a hand through his hair, pacing like a man whose plans were unraveling. "You're going to destroy this family." "No," I said. "I'm stopping you from destroying me." He froze, eyes narrowing. "After everything we've done for you." I laughed. Not loudly, not cruelly, just in disbelief. "Everything you've done for me? Lucas, I've carried this family for years. And you know it." His jaw clenched, but he didn't argue. Because he couldn't. I stepped closer. "Respect isn't optional," I said. "Love isn't conditional. And I won't be your punching bag anymore." For the first time, Lucas looked unsure. For the first time, Avery looked guilty. And for the first time, I saw the truth clearly. I wasn't the weak one. I was the backbone. But the real test of strength was still coming. The courtroom, where the truth could no longer be ignored or rewritten. If you want to know who someone truly is, watch how they act when they realize they can't control you anymore. The courthouse smelled like old books and polished floors, sterile, quiet, serious. A place where excuses shriveled and truth stood up straighter. Arthur walked beside me, holding the folder against his chest like it was a shield. "You ready?" he asked. "For the first time in years," I said. Inside the small hearing room, Lucas sat stiffly in a too expensive suit, the kind he wore when he wanted to look more responsible than he actually was. Avery sat beside him, knees bouncing, mascara smudged from what I suspected were self-pity tears. Their attorney nodded at me, polite but hollow, like a man who didn't want to be here either. The judge entered, a man with silver hair and a stare sharp enough to cut through excuses. We rose. We sat. And then it began. Arthur spoke first. Calm. Steady. Clinical. He presented the documents. My decade of quiet sacrifice. He presented the video. My moment of humiliation. He spoke like a man who believed in justice, not theatrics. Lucas's attorney countered with the predictability of someone who'd never been held accountable a day in his life. "Your Honor, this is a misunderstanding. A lapse in judgment. A family dispute blown out of proportion." The judge didn't even blink. "We'll determine proportion after reviewing evidence." The video played. Even though I didn't watch it, I heard it again, every cruel second. Avery's laugh. My body hitting the steps. Her voice gleeful. "Grandma just ate it." The judge paused the screen on the frame of me sprawled on the porch. He stared for a long, uncomfortable moment, then turned to Avery. "Miss Ward, stand." She rose shakily, wiping her nose. Did you film this? He asked. Yes, she whispered. Did you laugh? Yes. Did you provide aid? Her eyes filled. No, sir. He nodded once, disappointed, not surprised. Then he turned to Lucas. And you, Mr. Ward, did you receive financial support from your mother? Lucas shifted. Some of it, yes. Arthur stood. We have proof he knew about all of it. The judge looked at him long and hard. You benefited from her support, yet failed to protect her dignity. Lucas's face went pale. I felt something loosen in my chest, a knot that had lived there for years. The judge leaned back, folding his hands. This is not a trivial matter. This is not a joke. This is harm, emotional, financial, and deeply personal. No one spoke. Not Lucas. Not Avery. Not even their attorney. But the judge wasn't done. And what he said next would shake every one of us to the core. There's a moment in every fight where you realize the truth has finally weighed enough to tip the scales. The judge set the papers down and looked at me, really looked. Not at my age, not at my wrinkles, not at the fragility they all assumed I carried. He looked at me like a person who deserved justice. Mrs. Ward, he began, I want you to understand clearly that the court recognizes your suffering. My throat tightened, not because I needed his sympathy, but because for once, someone acknowledged what my own family refused to. He continued, addressing the room. This isn't about a single fall. It's about a pattern. A disturbing one. Avery clutched her father's arm, tears streaming now. But they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of consequences. Lucas glared at the judge like anger might sway him. It didn't. The evidence shows, the judge said firmly. A repeated lack of respect, empathy, and accountability. Emotional neglect. Financial exploitation. Public humiliation. Each word landed heavy, deserved. I watched Avery flinch with each one, watched Lucas's jaw clench tighter and tighter. The judge leaned forward. Before I issue the ruling, I want to be absolutely clear. No family bond excuses mistreatment. No relationship justifies humiliation. And no amount of shared blood allows one to strip another of dignity. He paused, letting the silence settle. Then, I find Mrs. Ward's claims credible, well-supported, and deeply concerning. The court will proceed with formal actions for both emotional harm and financial restitution. Avery gasped. Lucas slammed a hand on the table. This is insane. She's our mother. The judge didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Then you should have treated her like one. Lucas froze. Avery sobbed harder, burying her face in her hands. The judge gestured to Arthur. Prepare the next steps. Arthur nodded, calm but resolute. As we gathered our things, Lucas finally turned to me, eyes wide. Rage blended with disbelief. Mom, you really did this? I met his gaze steadily. No, Lucas. You did. Avery lifted her tear-streaked face. Grandma. I didn't know. You didn't want to know, I replied gently. I walked toward the exit, leaning only slightly on my cane. Not because I needed the support, but because the hallway felt long and symbolic, like stepping from one life into another. Behind me, I heard Avery whisper, Dad, what do we do? And Lucas answered the same way he had for every real responsibility in his life. I don't know. But I knew exactly what came next, and part 10 would be the moment everything changed for good. Freedom doesn't always arrive like a sunrise. It can come quietly, in a moment so small you almost miss the fact that your whole life just changed. The courthouse doors closed behind me with a soft thud, the kind that feels like punctuation. An ending and a beginning stacked on top of each other. The cold air hit my face, crisp and bright. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel old. I didn't feel like someone fading into the background of her own life. I felt steady, present, meaning. Arthur walked beside me, his briefcase swinging at his side. You handled that with more strength than most people half your age, he said. I smiled. Took me long enough to find it. He chuckled. Strength is never late. It's just waiting for the moment it's needed. We reached my car and he handed me the folder, now thinner, now settled. I'll call you with the finalized paperwork. But you did the hardest part today, Helen. Hardest part. Maybe once. But not anymore. I thanked him, slid into my car, and sat there with my hands wrapped around the steering wheel. My reflection in the rearview mirror looked different. Not younger, not harsher, just clearer. Like I was finally seeing myself without the filter of their expectations. On the drive home, I half expected to feel regret clawing at my chest, whispering that I'd gone too far. But regret never came. Only relief. Only peace. When I pulled into the driveway, the house looked the same porch, same railing, same spot where I fell. But it no longer felt like a place where my dignity stopped at the door. Inside, Avery and Lucas were waiting. Their eyes were puffy, faces worn. But their posture, their entitlement, their certainty that I'd bend, was gone. "Mom," Lucas started, voice tight. "We want to talk." I set my purse down calmly. "I'm listening." Avery stepped forward first, wiping her cheeks. "Grandma, I'm sorry. I really am. I didn't know how much it hurt you. I didn't think." "That's the problem," I said softly. "You didn't." Lucas rubbed his temples. "I messed up too. I should have protected you. I should have stopped the video. I should have." "You should have respected me," I finished. He nodded slowly, shame settling into the lines of his face. "Yeah, that too." For a moment, the silence wasn't hostile. It was honest. Avery took a shaky breath. Are you going to hate us now?" I shook my head. "No. Hate is easy. Growth is hard. I'm choosing growth." They both looked relieved, but not fully. The air still held something deeper, something heavier than apology. "I'm willing to move forward," I said, "but things will be different. Boundaries. Respect. No more taking advantage." They nodded. "No more filming me without consent," I added pointedly. Avery's face flushed. "Never again." I stepped back and looked at them. Really looked. Two people I loved deeply. Two people who hurt me deeply. But people capable of learning, maybe changing, maybe growing. "I'm not fragile," I said. "I'm strong. But I shouldn't have to prove it by surviving your behavior." Lucas swallowed. "We understand. Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. Time would tell." That night, after they went upstairs, I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea and let the peace settle. Outside, the porch light glowed softly, illuminating the steps where everything had started. And I realized something important. The fall didn't break me. But standing up, truly standing up, changed everything. I wasn't just someone's mother. I wasn't just someone's grandmother. I wasn't a joke. I wasn't content. I was me. Finally. And the best part? I was just getting started. If this story hit home, don't forget to like and subscribe for more just like it.